What's up, everybody? Afternoon, Keefy. Thursday afternoon, Keefy with a live stream. 2 live streams today. I don't know if you caught me late last night talking about Metallica at the Sphere. And now we're going to do a little deep dive review of the new Rob Zombie album. I thought you guys would appreciate it. I've been just trying to think lately about how to bring value to you guys who watch the channel and new subs and everything. And we're really looking to build a community. You're going to hear me talk about that more later on. But really and truly, what do we have? Longtime journalism, very well respected. We do a lot of interviews with bands, and we are lucky rocker stalkers here. What's up, Agent? We get albums early to review. And so, something I can share with all of y'all is my take on an album before it comes out, in case you're curious about it, think it's going to suck or rule, if you want to buy it, all that jazz. So that's what we do. That's kind of a lot of what we do. I made a little deck here to help me out, so we're going to do that and do the damn thing. See if I can get it to work. Hey-o! So Rob Zombie's The Great Satan comes out tomorrow. We're going to do a little housekeeping first, just in case y'all are curious. It's a banger, but that's a very 2-sentence review, but it's a lot more than just that. So let's talk a little bit about it. Tres Meritos is here. Sky Remote has passed by. What up, what up, what up? Good to see you again. For a little bit of light housekeeping, today has been a day, let me tell you. Rubber Band Man is here. We were just texting. What's up, Adam? Anybody else just consider DMs also texts? I don't know. It's kind of all the same. So a little bit of housekeeping. Normally we do our live stream every Thursday. Today we're doing 2. I did one late last night also, right before it was today. Time travel. Still tuning in. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. So, yep. We talked about Metallica at the Sphere, and if you can afford it. I know Gabe. Gabe is here, Anti-Mosbeast on YouTube. I know how much of a Rob fan you are. This is probably something you want to check out. You want to know about these things. So, yeah, let's do that. So go when you're done, go check out our thing. Can you afford to go see Metallica at the Sphere? I'm going to figure that out this weekend. Thanks for sharing, Tres Muertos. Always appreciated, brother. I'll be back in about 2 hours or less with my regular show. We're going to talk about all the things. Here's the graphic already made. Pontificating, pondering Keefy. Yeah, absolutely. And then again, if you're feeling tipsy, not our real ones and our everydayers, but, if we do have some money and revenue from advertising, but of course, we operate and live on tips. Tips help me buy records. Tips help us pay bills, honestly. All the super chats and super likes go back into the company. Whoop. Oh, echo in my head. But here's the tip menu in case you're feeling tipsy. I appreciate it if you do. If not, that's fine. I'll probably share at least one more thing on here. And again, I will be back a little later. This is going to be a short but technically deep review. Again, appreciate you, Trez. Appreciate you. Much appreciated. Koyanis Kotzi is here. What's up? What's up? Hope I said that correctly. So there's our tip menu. There's our Cash App. Let's talk about Rob Zombie, man. Rob Zombie has been pretty, not maybe the most prolific guy. And obviously a lot of people, the internet is full of memes and, Ramalam Dang, Godzilla, Goddamn, Frankenstein Man, I'm a Jam, Bambalam. Like, that shit's not untrue. I think there is probably like a little bit of an idea that Rob maybe not mailed it in after White Zombie, but, he hasn't done a lot of experimenting. I think Educated Horses is his one record that is really considered the experimental one. That's the most like soundtrack music. We're going to talk about his longevity. He's only got 8 full-length albums in his 40-ish year career, but still some of the most bangerific albums of all time. And again, I know that people kind of associate Rob most closely with the horror genre and his movies, but also his live show, and that maybe the records don't hold up. And I'll be honest, I haven't really listened to a Rob Zombie record more than twice since Educated Horses or Sinister Urge. So that's a long time ago where like some of them I liked. I liked the Electric Kool-Aid, Acid, whatever the fuck, Everybody's Fucking in the UFO album. But, maybe some of his stuff seems one note and repetitive to some of you. But some people love him. And, we're going to talk about why. And, we've been very fortunate to cover Rob Zombie a lot. Never got to interview him. Met him briefly once, which was a pretty quick and fun exchange at an Ozfest. I think it was the Ozfest for Educated Horses where he went out with no show, just like jeans and a t-shirt, and was like, we can be a band, which was interesting. And I think he had just had John 5 in the band at that time, or maybe right before that, which was a super interesting time for him. But yeah, man, he puts on a great show. We've covered him a lot. We know he's got a lot of stuff going on this year. Big tour with Marilyn Manson, Universal, probably Halloween Horror Nights again. Let's just talk about the album. This is the first record without John 5 in a long time. And I'm always the person that says John 5 is always the most underutilized guy in any project that's not his own solo endeavor, right? He was in Manson for a long time. Didn't seem like he did a lot for that music. Played some great solos, interpreted the historical music well. Texas Radio and the Big Beat. Yeah, man. And so this is the first record without Piggy D, who he released from the band a couple of years ago, and has Riggs back, who's been in the band now for like 3 more years. I actually saw one of Riggs's first shows back with the band when John 5, switched teams, basically like a sports trade, to go to Motley Crue. And I don't know how much he's bringing to the table there. Supposedly has written new music with them. I don't remember hearing it. But so the new album features Rob, obviously, on vocals and usually production and some songwriting. Mike Riggs on guitar. We'll talk about him in a second. Our dude, Rob Blasco Nicholson, on bass, formerly of Ozzy Osbourne's band. And I think Riggs was at Back to the Beginning last summer. I don't know if you know, he's also in management. He also co-owns Liquid Death, Spring and Seltzer Waters, and energy drinks and stuff. What's the secret word? The secret word is tsetse fly. It's always the secret word. That's an Entourage reference for you HBO fans and Jeremy Piven fans. But and Ginger Fish, of course, he's been the drummer there probably for about 15 years. So he's the current longest serving unbroken member of the band. I think as long as Ginger and Rob are happy with each other, he will stay in the band. He's, from what I understand, sober. And every time I've seen Rob with Ginger, at least you can guarantee he can rock those drums. But I'm super interested about Riggs being back in particular. We'll talk about why. And then, as always, I like to do a little Rob Zombie by the numbers, or artist by the numbers. So 40 years in music in 2026. He might have had some attempts at a band before that. 10 years only with White Zombie, and 30 as a solo artist. So he had, I think, this is The Great Satan is Rob's 8th full-length album. I think with White Zombie, he had 3 full lengths and a bunch of EPs. And then he's had, 8. I think this is his 8th solo album on top of those other earlier White Zombie records. And, I think most people would say, I think Hellbilly Deluxe and Sinister Urge have moments that hold up to White Zombie. Personally, I was such a big White Zombie fan. And Sexorcisto and Electric Head, to a lesser extent, are so baller and they're so great that I think it kind of is, felt less than for Rob's solo career. But, a lot easier to be in a band by yourself than have to deal with other herbs. Michael Treat is here. H. Harris is here. Narwellis is here. Great name. You got a great screen name. I'm going to shout it out, yo. So 21 million records sold combined for White Zombie and Rob Zombie. That's an estimate from the interwebs. And, nothing to sneeze at for a very popular artist. And his touring, has always been pretty successful. Of course, people know Rob also as a visual artist. He's done a lot of shirts and music videos, most notably all the White Zombie videos. He directed videos for Prong and the Stillborn video for Black Label Society. He originally worked as a stage artist on Pee-wee's Playhouse. He also was the original artist of the Ricky Rackman era of the stage for Headbangers Ball on MTV. That's how he came into, that's how he came into, being. Also, I mean, he's been a guest on other shows like Headbangers Ball, where he was an occasional host. And of course, he could have been the host of that show. It would have been pretty seamless. He's also hosted a lot of movies and television things and award shows where he's presented 150 million box office on his 6 feature films, all in the horror genre. I didn't much care for the Munsters redo on Netflix. I understood what he was going for, did not love it. Gail Brent is also here. What's up? What's up? And Tres Muertos has now popped over to IG. Hello, hello. Appreciate it. But yeah, 150 million, nothing to sneeze at. He's a very successful, money-making, filmographer, director. He's also done a couple of other little guest spots in his own movies and other people's movies. And, he makes money on his films. And some of his films were not commercially loved, but they weren't money losers. And, of course, in history, his stuff stands on its own. And, of course, he still works with Universal Pictures and Universal Studios as an artist and a director, even though he's not on their label anymore. He was on that label for quite a long time. I think he also had one record on Roadrunner back in the day. White Zombie, of course, was originally on Geffen Records when they signed after Caroline. So The Great Satan, obviously a very, perhaps triggering album title for people in this crazy, I think you better start from the beginning. Exactly. And there's plenty of samples on here. The Great Satan, great album artwork. I like the black and white of it all. Rob kind of face painted and hippie looking on the cover. He's always been a great self-promoter and really good at putting himself into things, right? B666 is here. What's up? What's up? What's up? So, just always super interesting that he would, accomplish these things. So the album opens up and I will say that I wasn't super excited about the singles initially. And then I loved the videos and I listened to them a little on repeat. And then our review of the album came across my email for me to edit and post from our own Wilsifer, who writes quite a bit of stuff. And I don't think that he's necessarily a Rob Zombie or White Zombie super fan. I think he's just a good metalhead. So, I think, I think the original White Zombie records came out originally on Rob's own record label. And then Caroline Records, which doesn't exist anymore, but a lot of Helmet and Prong were on those labels. I'll just tell a little story really quick before I jump into this. Is that I go back with White Zombie before they were popular. I'm from New York City, did you know? And I saw White Zombie open for the Lunatics and the Cramps, and White Zombie was not good. They were pretty bad. They were kind of a Cramps light type of band where they were like noise rock and punk and a little metal, but not really. And they weren't necessarily great as a band. And then I remember when Make Them Die Slowly came out, they started kind of gravitating toward metal. And obviously La Sexorcisto is this like horror themed heavy metal and thrash metal. It's much more thrash and groove metal than other records at the time. I know it didn't really come out till 93, and some of those songs are on the EP that got them signed to Geffen, and some of those songs were on Soul Crusher and Make Them Die Slowly, which came out before. But, the bones of White Zombie, and then they kind of morphed into industrial metal. They're like, well, if we can't do that, we'll never be able to replicate La Sexorcisto again, which was like Slayer, very Slayery and metal. But let's take the dancey stuff up a notch. And obviously we got Electric Head. And then that went on for a couple of years where they toured with Pantera and did arenas together. And originally White Zombie was headlining over Pantera, and then it flipped and Pantera was headlining over White Zombie, which, kind of tells you a little bit of what you need to know. But White Zombie was untouchable back then, especially with I had Ivan DePrume and a couple of other drummers, and then John Tempesta, formerly of Testament and Exodus and Forbidden and The Cult and a bunch of other bands. So let's talk about The Great Satan. Opens up with FTW 84, and it kind of has, it's a longer track. It's got kind of a a very soundtracky intro. I guess they could have made it a separate track. I personally don't like when the opening track is a separate track. I want one song to start the record. I don't want a multitude, but not all of us contain multitudes. If you've been watching Industry, maybe you get that reference. I don't know. But once the song proper kicks in, it's an absolute banger to start the record. An absolute hint of what's to come. It's about 4 minutes. I think that's the sweet spot for every Rob Zombie song. Super spooky intro, and then just an absolute groove metal banger, similar to Astro Creep 2000 or Electric Head, as Gabe dropped in the sample. There's tons of samples. It's all the things you love about Rob Zombie right off the bat. It's groovy. You can headbang to it. It's got a dancey beat. Pretty great. The second track of the album is a little shorter, and that is Tarantula, which I have to say, oops, sorry, little itchy trigger finger there. Tarantula is one of the best songs on the record. The whole record's excellent, but Tarantula stands out. It's very Pantera, Far Beyond Driven, and vulgar display of power. Very groovy, heavy, phenomenal riffs. Great vocal by Rob, which, like, you know, Rob is not a traditionally great singer. I know he started out just kind of rapping and shouting in key like all metal singers did. And obviously he was very inspired by Public Enemy and stuff to rap. I was at the bar the other night here where I do karaoke, and one of my friends said, like, anytime I see a white guy rapping, I'm immediately disappointed and unhappy about it. And I was like, you know what? That's completely fucking fair. But Rob is actually solid at rapping. Tarantula rules. I'll just leave it at that. Then the next track is one of the singles, I'm a Rock and Roller. Kind of a generic song. I think one of the things Rob Zombie does really well is get people, like, he writes with the live show in mind. So it's a lot of sing-alongs. It's a lot of stuff people want to chant back to a band. And I'm a Rock and Roller. I think he name checks Jimmy Page. You know, the video is pretty interesting. It's got a little fun stuff there, but it's also like a rehearsal room, like a cramped little rehearsal room. And again, man, just riffs. And I don't know, I'm not going to say that like the previous Rob Zombie records didn't have good riffs, because of course they did with John 5, but I just feel like he did never let John 5 like do his thing as much. And Riggs is just a perfect match for, you know, going out and playing the hits with Rob and then coming in to put a record together. I don't know how much of it he actually got to write, but it does sound like he's a big contributor here. Great guitar, crunchy guitar sound, just what you want, you know, from a modern metal record. Typical Rob Zombie song. Another single is Heathen Days, pretty short, super fast, almost a thrash metal. There's a few of these on here that could be thrash metal, like a super fast, quick track that I really like. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Supercharger Heaven from Astro Creep, which there's also a few more on here that sound like that. Then there's a little interlude, Who Am I? Didn't do much for me, but okay. There's quite a few. So it's like a long record. If you count the intro as one track and not two, it would be like 16 tracks, but there's like at least 3 interludes, and the intro is long on that, and the outro. So we'll get to it. Then next is Black Rat Coffin, which is awesome. Metal as fuck. And maybe the best song on the whole record, that and Tarantula. Just absolute ripper. Just an ear peeler. I want to hear quite a few of these songs live. Then, in typical Rob Zombie fashion, Sir Lord Acid Wolfman. I don't know what the fuck this song is about. If you know, drop a comment and tell me. I don't know what the fuck this song is about. The lyrics make even less sense than usual for a Rob Zombie song. But that being said, I actually enjoyed the song. It's neither great, but it's, it's certainly not horrible. But I don't understand. Like, I don't need to understand what it's about. Do you need to understand what any Rob Zombie song is about? I don't think so. But it's pretty obtuse, even for Rob. Then the next track is another Rager, Punks and Demons, another short one. Possibly the title track, because it does repeat Satan a lot in the lyrics. And it's pretty fun. Another shorty. So this record kind of whips by, even though it's got a lot of tracks. And this is probably, I would make this a single. If it's not already planned to be, I would do it. I think it kind of works for that. Next is The Devil Man. with Devilman, Devilman, Devilman lyrics, which will remind you again of Supercharger Heaven. Very slow though, not fast. This is more like a White Zombie, Jaws of the Soul Crusher, like one of those songs, really similar to the Lush Exorcisto, White Zombie, Thunder Kiss. There's a lot of call outs across his career here, almost like, hey, remember that thing you really loved from me 30 years ago? Well, check this out. Then the next song is, I believe, Out of Sight, which is a lot like an industrial metal Super Beast type of song. And really a lot of Ministry on this record. Ministry, the recent KMFDM record that came out, like really, like even a little 9 Inch Nails on Out of Sight. Pretty cool. Not like Tron Era's 9 Inch Nails, but like the Broken EP 9 Inch Nails, like Wish. Like, yeah, he sticks to his roots. He knows, man. He's not gonna overthink this thing. I think we got the one experimental record out of the way from him early, the 4th record or 5th record, and I don't think he's gonna make another one. Welcome to the Electric Age is another interlude. Doesn't do much for me and doesn't seem like it either. Oh, sorry, I think I skipped one. Did I skip one? Okay, I got them out of order. Revolution Motherfuckers is the next one, and he's doing like a Carney Barker thing. Like, again, Rob, not super great at his voice-wise, but like he has a lot of voices. He's using effects on his voice. He's giving you like a lot of different flavors. Now, I don't know how all of this would translate to a show, but some of this stuff is, listicles and stream of consciousness, gibberish and madness, but people want to chant along to a song called Revolution Motherfuckers, they just want to. Then the next track is the Welcome to the Electric Age, which I didn't quite like too much. Again, didn't do much for me. Then the song ends with a super bang. Okay, here we go. Black Scorpion is an absolute banger. Kind of sounds like thrash metal, but with a typo negative Munster's keyboard part. Again, Rob knows what he's doing. This is who he is. He's not going to change the formula now. Another one of the best songs on here. And the shortest. I would say it kind of reminded me of, I think this is probably the first time ever, that Spider, his brother, Spider One from... what's his band? I just had it before. They started out as like Spider One. They started out as like like sort of like Incubus, groovy folk stuff, and then they changed to kind of industrial metal after Rob did, which is weird. Of course, I couldn't remember what his band is because. Not that great. Power Man 5000. Oh my God. I'm so tired. Power Man 5000. So it kind of, when Power Man 5000, they ran out of ideas to do kind of industrial metal and especially dancey stuff. They went back and did like punk records. And now they're back again doing the industrial hits. So to me, the Black Scorpion kind of feels a lot like, not that Rob Zombie is listening to the brother, because I'm sure this is the first time anyone has ever did this. This is like Rob Zombie doing like a Power Man 5000 punk kind of step back. I don't know that they're close. I don't think they've toured together much. My favorite band is, as much of a metalhead as I am, it's probably Pink Floyd. How about you, Ghost Gaming on TikTok? What's your favorite band? So yeah, like a very fast, punky metal Power Man, but also very thrashy. Very thrashy. So this record's got some heavy shit on it, man. I'm gonna tell you, I was pleasantly surprised. And then finally, it's not the last. It's the last full song proper on the album, "Unclean Animals," which is like a very slow, pre-Lush Exorcisto, White Zombie groove metal song that kind of also reminds me of Blood Milk and Sky a little bit. The closing track on Astro Creep 2000. Yeah, Metallica, I've seen them the most of any band, like 6 times. I'm hoping to go to the Sphere. We shall see. But Unclean Animals, really strong. And then the album ends again with another little outro called Grave Discontent, but again, didn't do much for me. Before I talk more about the merch and other things, I want to read this quote. So Will Safer of Ghost Cult, and I will link this. It's in the description, but here you go for y'all watching if you want to check it out. And I'll try to link it for y'all over on the TikTok also. Here's the quote from our review, because it was a very high praise. Overall, this album is fucking fantastic and shows that just because you came out in the 90s, it does not mean you have to forsake your sound if you are a good enough artist to perfect it. This most likely works better than if he tried to get the old band back together, which you know that Rob has zero interest in putting White Zombie back together, as we have heard. And certainly more inspired and stands tall against his best work. And it doesn't matter if you were hung up on Digging Through the Ditches or Kissing Thunder in 1965. All the elements that sparked interest in your ears when you first heard those sounds are in play. So really, really great. Really great review. I gotta say, for me personally, I don't think it's a perfect Rob Zombie album, but it certainly is a lot better than I thought. And Bella Kiss Music is here. What's up? I absolutely have listened to this thing 3 or 4 times to do this review. And I think it's a pretty excellent record, and a surprisingly excellent record among a month of banger records in 2026 so far. Pussifer came out early in the month. It's going to be really hard to pin down what the #1 record of the month is, but this is pretty incredible. I have to say, it surprised me. There are deluxe packages for The Great Satan. Nuclear Blast and Rob have collaborated. There's like a poster and illustrated book set that comes with a splatter vinyl. There's the regular vinyl variants and bundles and splatter vinyls and merch bundles. I do like the black and white cover. I think Educated Horses also has a black and white cover. So, after doing such vibrant blur the Technicolor, pun intended, type of stuff, I think it's kind of fun that Rob has this kind of very monochrome but still cool looking album artwork. And that is The Great Satan. Personally, I would give this an 8 or even a low 9. I'm not Anthony Fantano with his low 2s, but this is about the best I could have hoped for a Rob Zombie record. There are tracks that are exceptional and not a lot of stuff that sounds like filler, except for the sort of interludes that are meant to be filler. So, I understood the assignment, and so did Rob. All right, we're getting to the top of the hour. Volbeat Rockers here. Been a long time since we've seen you. I will be back in about an hour or so with the regular weekly show. But I wanted to get in. We had the opportunity to listen to the record a lot before it dropped. And I felt like you guys deserved, a little bit of hearing from me about it. So I hope you enjoyed it. Drop a comment if you've heard some of this stuff, if you are excited about it or not, if you've got thoughts about it, if you don't like Rob Zombie, if you prefer White Zombie, that's also totally okay, because a lot of people do. I still listen to White Zombie every week, and for me personally, it's a lot better than most of his solo stuff. But that's just me, and maybe I'm wrong, because I'm wrong sometimes. I get it wrong, even though I am an expert at these things. Sometimes I get it wrong. I just get it wrong. Anyway, that's our show. I'll be back in a little while with the regular show. Feel free to tune back in if this is your first time here and you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. If you didn't like it or you disagree with me, please comment, because I appreciate it and I take all the feedback and I listen. Thanks for being here. Thanks to our regular ones, Rubber Band Man, Gabe, anybody that tuned in on the gram that are our regular fams here. I appreciate you all. And I'll be back in a little while. Peace out. Head along.